Though every clone was expected to obey Palpatine's binding command to eliminate the Jedi, some stood apart, resisting, unwilling to carry out the order. Starting off with Omega Squad, which is based on legends and was a unit composed of clone commandos who had survived the Battle of Geonosis. The squad's members included Niner, Darman, Aten, Phi, and Kor. After completing a mission, the squad became caught in the Battle of Coruscant. While navigating the intense space conflict, their ship was struck by a droid starfighter and crashed within the galactic city. Surviving the impact, they joined Republic forces on the ground. During the fighting, however, the command to execute Order 66 was issued and Omega Squad resisted. Darman, in particular, had formed a deep relationship with the Jedi Knight Etain Turmakan during an earlier mission. Their bond eventually led to a traditional Mandalorian marriage, and together they had a child, Vinku Skirata. A deep disappointment in how clone troopers were treated within the Grand Army of the Republic had already taken root among the squad, strengthening their refusal to obey the Order. Whether through failing inhibitor chips or sheer moral conviction, they did not turn on the Jedi. Omega Squad chose to desert alongside their field trainer Cal Skirata, whom they revered as a father, as well as the Null ARC troopers. Their escape plan was shattered when Etain was killed at the Shinarkan Bridge extension, a heavily guarded security checkpoint along a primary route away from the Jedi Temple. Having heard rumors that Mace Windu had attempted to assassinate Chancellor Palpatine, Etain was moving through the checkpoint to rendezvous with Clan Skirata. When several Padawans in the crowd attempted to flee, a skirmish erupted. Trying to stop a panicked Padawan from striking a clone trooper, Etain stepped into the path of the Padawan's lightsaber and was killed instantly. Darman witnessed her death but painfully resisted the urge to run to her, instead calling for medical evacuation for Niner, whose back had been broken when a Jedi pushed him from the bridge. Darman remained behind with him while Aten, Kor, and Cal Skirata escaped to Mandalore. Unable to reunite with their brothers, Darman and Niner were ultimately forced into service with the Galactic Empire, becoming members of Squad 40 of the 501st Legion and tasked with hunting not only Jedi, but also their sympathizers. Well, the General has been making additions to his collection for several years now, and if you're anything like me, you've probably imagined what it could be like to own a Saber yourself. So that's why I started my own store called Stickman Sabers, with a singular goal in mind. Make sabers that look amazing, being inspired by iconic designs but specifically built to actually duel with. No worrying about babying them, just pick them up and go ham. They're equipped with state-of-the-art pixel technology, giving off an incredibly bright light that will light up the darkest rooms out there. And obviously have that iconic hum, just feels right the moment you switch it on. And for a limited time, if you pick a collector's saber up, you'll also get 2 combat sabers for free. So, if you ever thought about starting your own collection, this is a pretty good place to start. Links in the description, and now, let's get back to the video. Captain Rex, before the execution of Order 66, in a bid to capture Fives who had already been declared a fugitive for attempting to assassinate the Chancellor, was informed about the implanted chips within all clones. This chain of events began after Tup fired upon and killed Jedi General Tiplar. Tup, fully unaware of what had happened and showing signs of strange behavior, was transported to Kamino, with Fives choosing to accompany him. Things took a different turn when Fives discovered, through Tup's tumor, that an artificially designed organic chip had been implanted into all clones from birth, sanctioned by Palpatine himself. This discovery ultimately led to Fives being framed for attempting to kill the Chancellor. At his secret meeting place, where he would later be killed by Commander Fox, he briefly revealed to Rex what he had uncovered before taking his last breath. Though Rex remained somewhat skeptical of Fives' claims, he still submitted a report based on the findings. The report, however, was classified within the Republic archives. Toward the end of the Clone Wars, while aboard a Star Destroyer with Ahsoka Tano, who had left the Jedi Order at the time, Rex listened as she spoke about how the Jedi had been made to function less as peacekeepers and more as soldiers. Moments later, Rex stepped away to hear the latest briefing and, via hologram, was ordered by Darth Sidious to execute Order 66, with special instructions to eliminate Tano despite her no longer being a Jedi. As Tano entered the room, she immediately sensed that something had happened to Anakin Skywalker. At that same moment, Rex faced her alongside 2 other clones, with their blasters raised. Rex struggled the fire and, recalling what Fives had told him about the inhibitor chips, fought his programming just long enough to urge Tano to find him. Tano defended herself as Rex ordered the clones to hunt her down, and with the help of astromech droids, she stunned him. Carrying Rex's unconscious body, she slipped into the Venator's medical bay and used the Force to locate his inhibitor chip before directing the droids to surgically remove it. Rex later awoke just in time to shoot the surrounding clones who had nearly overwhelmed Tano with blaster fire. The two ultimately survived the Star Destroyer crash and landed on the surface of a moon. Imperial reports later declared that Rex had been killed in action. CC-5576, otherwise known as Gregor, was one of the two clones who, after deserting the Empire, hid alongside Captain Rex in a modified ATTE on Selos. However, during the Clone Wars, Gregor had been reported missing in action and presumed dead. His squad did not survive the Battle of Sarish, but he did. Escaping in a shuttle, he crash-landed on the planet Abafar in the town of Pons Ora, where he suffered amnesia caused by a traumatic brain injury. Unable to remember that he was a soldier, Gregor took work as a dishwasher and cleaner at the Power Sliders Diner under Celestin Borkus. He began to recover fragments of his past after Colonel Meber Gaskin and his team of droids crash-landed on Abafar while attempting to return to Republic lines. Deeply confused when Gaskin insisted he was a clone, Gregor later returned home from work and was greeted by a holographic message from Rex. This encounter helped restore his memories, and he ultimately aided Gaskin's team in escaping. After retrieving his gear from Borkus and battling hordes of battle droids, Gregor fired upon containers of Rhydonium, triggering a massive explosion. Although he sustained severe head injuries, he managed to return to the Republic, where he was immediately promoted to the rank of Clone Commander. When Order 66 was executed, Gregor did not yield to the command, likely because his prior head injuries had rendered his inhibitor chip ineffective. Despite this, he was assigned as an instructor on the secret Imperial base on Daro, tasked with training the new TK troopers following the Republic's reorganization into the Galactic Empire. Wanting no part in the Empire's plans, Gregor eventually escaped. Though he was hunted down and recaptured, he succeeded in planting a rescue beacon that transmitted a distress signal to Rex. Unable to rescue Gregor personally, Rex dispatched the Bad Batch, fellow deserters, who successfully extracted him from Daro. Gregor then joined Rex's clone underground resistance network. The network was eventually dismantled by Imperial forces, leading Gregor, Rex, and Commander Wolffe to spend years in hiding together within a modified ATTE. Ordo Skirata was one of the 6 Null-class Advanced Recon Commandos, the first clones of Jango Fett. The Kaminoan cloners had planned to terminate them for insubordination and unpredictability, but they were saved by Cal Skirata, who took on the responsibility of training them. Their genetic predisposition made them independent-minded, which likely explains why they were impervious to Order 66. Ordo naturally disliked the Jedi Order. When asked by Arligan Zay why, he explained that he detested their command structure, how they would willingly lead what he considered a slave army. He also found it unethical that they removed Force-sensitive infants from their families to train as Jedi without offering them a choice. Toward the end of the Clone Wars, Ordo participated in the plan to desert the Republic alongside Omega Squad and the others. On the day of their planned desertion to Kyra Moret, he received the command to execute Order 66. Though he acknowledged it, he discarded his Grand Army of the Republic armor and copied all the data from its helmet into his Mandalorian armor. Ordo then checked the quarters of Omega Squad to ensure they left no traces of their desertion. When he went to inspect Arligan Zay's computer, Zay entered, nearly mortally wounded by blaster fire and confused as to why the clones had turned against the Jedi. With him was Captain Maze. After helping Zay to a seat, Ordo learned from him that Jedi Master Mace Windu had attempted to kill Palpatine, who had revealed himself as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. After leaving Zay and Maze, Ordo joined his group's escape. Maze later informed him that Zay had requested to be killed so as not to be captured alive. Ordo was also present with Omega Squad when Etain Turmakan was killed while they attempted to escort her through a checkpoint. Ordo attempted to resuscitate her but failed, as she had been struck from her shoulder to her spine. When their clan reached Mandalore, they held a Jedi funeral and witnessed Turmakan's cremation. Commander Wolffe, the third member of the trio who lived in a modified ATTE during the reign of the Empire after defecting, also ultimately disobeyed Order 66. Wolffe's mission on Teth reveals a soldier already conflicted about his orders following the execution of Order 66. In 18 BBY, he was assigned to lead a mission to assist the clone assassin CX-2 in recovering a high-value target, the young clone Omega, a member of the Bad Batch. After CX-2 located the hidden base of the clone underground resistance network at the Bomar Order Monastery, Wolffe and his forces, a recovery strike team of commandos, TK stormtroopers, and clone stormtroopers, were dispatched. During the operation, Wolffe showed clear displeasure at CX-2's failure to follow orders. Nevertheless, the Imperial forces advanced on the resistance, driving them into the jungle and killing many in the process. As the rebel clones attempted to escape the planet, they were intercepted by Wolffe and his team. He immediately recognized Captain Rex, who removed his helmet in response. Though confused, since Imperial reports had listed Rex as killed in action, Wolffe listened as Rex pleaded for safe passage. Insisting that Wolffe knew the order to hunt and capture a child was wrong and inhumane. At first, Wolffe argued that he was a soldier of the Empire bound to obey orders, but in a split-second decision, he commanded his men to stand down, allowing the fugitives to escape. Most likely, Wolffe's inhibitor chip was already failing. Had it not, he would not have yielded to Rex's plea. Years later, after removing his behavioral modification chip entirely, Wolffe joined Rex and Gregor on Selos, living together in their modified ATTE. No longer servants of the Empire, no longer soldiers, but spending their days telling stories and catching Jupas. At the first Battle of Geonosis during the Clone Wars, Cut Lawquane's transport was attacked and ambushed by Separatist gunships, leaving his fellow soldiers dead or injured. Believing himself abandoned and expendable, he fled the battlefield and later began to question his place in the war. Lawquane eventually made his way to Seleucami, where he met Sue, a female Twi'lek refugee. He married her and became the stepfather of her two children, Shaia and Jek. Before the execution of Order 66, the Clone Wars reached Seleucami when General Grievous landed his damaged ship on the planet after Captain Rex and Republic forces rescued Jedi Master Eth Koth from his captivity. While investigating the wreckage of Grievous's ship with his comrades, Rex was shot by a commando droid sniper and required a Bacta patch. Rather than abandon the search, his squad chose to find a safe place for him to recover overnight. Observing that nearby Eopes were domesticated, they followed them to the Lawquane family farm. At the time of their arrival, Lawquane was away delivering the first harvest. Sue initially confronted the clones with a blaster fire, believing them to be invaders, but soon offered help. She provided Rex with a Bacta patch and food while his squad resumed the search for Grievous. When Lawquane returned, Rex drew his blaster on him, but Lawquane swiftly knocked it aside. Realizing Rex was also a clone, Rex accused him of deserting the Republic. Over dinner, the two debated their beliefs, Rex insisting clones were born to serve, while Lawquane argued that everyone deserved the freedom to choose their own life. Their discussion continued during a game of Dejarik, where Lawquane shared how he had been left alone after Geonosis. Though Rex remained resentful at first, he later joined Lawquane in defending the family against a group of BX series battle droids. Shaia and Jek accidentally activated the droids when they went out to play in a nearby crop field, where they discovered a droid escape pod and chose to explore its interior. The children immediately ran back to the house, alerting their father. Because of Rex's injuries, Lawquane decided to confront the droids himself, leaving Rex in the house as the last line of defense for his family. He handed Rex a blaster pistol and proceeded to fight the droids with his DC-15A blaster carbine. Although Lawquane managed to destroy most of the droids on his own, he later became trapped beneath debris, allowing the remaining droids to advance toward the house. Despite his injuries, Rex fired at the droids, buying Lawquane enough time to free himself, and the two eventually succeeded in eliminating the remaining attackers together. The experience helped both men understand each other's choices. Once Rex had recovered enough to return to duty, he bid the family farewell and chose to feign amnesia in his report so he would not expose Lawquane's desertion. After the execution of Order 66, Rex secretly returned to warn Lawquane about the inhibitor chips implanted in every clone, chips that had forced them to kill the Jedi. Lawquane, however, had remained unaffected. It is likely that when he first questioned his expendability during the Clone Wars, his inhibitor chip had already malfunctioned or been damaged. While stationed on Kalar during the execution of Order 66, Commander Grey's inhibitor chip activated, causing him to turn on his Jedi General Depa Billaba. Billaba deflected his blaster fire and disarmed him by slicing his weapon in half and kicking him away. She then urgently ordered her Padawan, Caleb Dume, to run before she was overwhelmed and killed by the clones under Grey's command. Members of Clone Force 99 also witnessed the event, confused as to why Grey and his troops would suddenly execute a general they had served loyally for years. Days later, Grey and Clone Captain Styles searched Plateau City for Caleb, but lost his trail after he altered his appearance and began working with Janus Casimir. When Casimir and Caleb were later caught, Casimir revealed Caleb's identity as Bilaba's escaped Padawan and traded him to Gamut Key security in exchange for his own freedom. Grey and Styles confirmed Caleb was their target and ordered that he be detained until they arrived to execute him. Before their arrival, however, Casimir had a change of heart and helped Caleb escape. The two fled to Lon, hoping to trade stolen spice to the Separatist General Cleve for a second ship. Grey and Styles pursued them. Holding Casimir at gunpoint, Grey demanded Caleb's location, but Casimir claimed they had separated after leaving Kalar. Caleb, overhearing the exchange, ran for the Farbrooks Hope, the vessel he and Casimir intended to acquire, but Captain Styles ambushed and knocked him unconscious. After Styles reported the capture, Grey joined him aboard their Gozanti-class cruiser to transport Caleb back to Kalar. Faced with execution, Caleb pleaded for his life and tried to convince the clones that Palpatine, not the Jedi, was their true enemy, reminding them as well of how, as clone troopers, they had looked up to his master. His delay allowed Casimir and Cleve to mount a rescue, and Caleb used the Force to break free and escape. Though Grey managed to return to the bridge of his Imperial freighter, he began to doubt the order to execute the Jedi. When he voiced these doubts, Captain Styles firmly rejected them. Despite having the firepower to destroy the escaping ships, Grey instead shot his own vessel controls, disabling it and preventing pursuit. This decision allowed Casimir and Cleve to destroy the freighter, killing both clones aboard. Kix, who served as a clone medic in the Grand Army of the Republic's 501st Legion, was present when his clone comrade CT-5385, known as Tup, shot and killed Jedi Master Tiplar, an act initially attributed to a virus. Later, when Fives was framed for attempting to assassinate Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, upon finding out the truth about the inhibitor chips implanted in clone troopers, he secretly met Kix in a bar's restroom. During this meeting, Kix, who was shocked to see Fives, shared the rumors he had heard about Fives' attempt to kill the Chancellor, attributing it to the same supposed virus that had caused Tup to murder Jedi Master Tiplar. Nonetheless, Fives tried to reveal everything he had discovered, warning that the clones and the Jedi had been framed, that they were all in grave danger, and that a conspiracy reached the highest levels of the Republic. He begged Kix to contact Rex and Skywalker, providing coordinates where Rex could meet him. Fives' revelations left Kix filled with questions and deep uncertainty. After the Battle of Anaxes, thoughts about the so-called virus resurfaced in Kix's mind, prompting him to investigate on his own. When he uncovered the truth, that biochips had been implanted in every clone trooper and that the Chancellor intended to betray and destroy the Jedi, he became a target. Before he could warn anyone, he was captured by Count Dooku. Kix was frozen in a cryostasis pod and placed aboard the Separatist cruiser Obrexta III, intended for transport to Sereno. The cruiser was later ambushed by Republic forces and heavily damaged. Following strict orders that Kix must never return to the Republic, a battle droid known as B-1CC-14 jumped the ship into hyperspace at random, ultimately crashing on the desert world Ponema Terminal, where Kix remained in stasis for 50 years. He was eventually discovered and awakened by the Delphidian pirate Sidon Athano and the crew of the Messin Martinet, who had been searching the wreck for Count Dooku's lost treasure. The pirate crew managed to decode an old transmission dating back to the Clone Wars, sent by B-1CC-14, who at the time had issued a distress signal and spoken of a very important cargo belonging to Count Dooku. Realizing that the transmission must have originated from the crashed Separatist ship on Ponema, Sidon Athano and his crew set out to reach it first, knowing they were not the only pirates aware of it. Other gangs and raiders operating on the planet had also decoded the signal, unaware that the treasure they sought was Kix himself, frozen in stasis. Ithano and his crew narrowly won the race to the ship after a fierce battle with a notorious swoop biker gang known as the Grey Gundarks. Upon entering the crashed vessel, they were shocked to find that there was no treasure, only a cryocycle stasis pod containing a clone trooper. Feeling they had nothing left to lose, they awakened Kix, who at first struggled to breathe and was rambling. Once he had calmed down, they revealed to him the events of Order 66. Learning what had transpired after the Clone Wars, Kix was devastated that he had been unable to save the Jedi. In time, he chose to join Ithano's band of pirates, the Crimson Corsair, donning himself with Phase 1 clone trooper armor and traveling the galaxy in search of treasure. Experimental Unit Clone Force 99, also known as the Bad Batch, comprising Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Echo, were genetically modified troopers with enhanced abilities. Because of their mutations, their inhibitor chips were less effective, leaving them nearly immune to the command of Order 66. On the planet Kaller, the Bad Batch were deployed as reinforcements to aid Jedi General Depa Billaba, her Padawan Caleb Dume, and their battalion in defeating Separatist battle droids and AATs. Moments later, Order 66 was issued by Darth Sidious, and the clone troopers turned on the Jedi. Although the Bad Batch received the directive, they did not initially understand it. Crosshair attempted to shoot the Padawan even as Hunter tried to stop him. After speaking with a regular clone captain, Tech realized the Jedi were being executed for treason. Hunter later cornered Caleb at the edge of a cliff, attempting to reassure him, but the Padawan leapt across and escaped. When Crosshair regained consciousness, Hunter falsely claimed the boy had died, something Crosshair clearly doubted. As they flew toward Kamino aboard their ship, the Marauder, Crosshair once again approached Hunter to question his certainty about the Padawan's death. Almost as if interrogating him, Crosshair remarked that a person would normally look down when someone falls, not across. Hunter replied that some people simply did not like to watch others die. His answer, however, did nothing to satisfy Crosshair's suspicion, a clear sign that his inhibitor chip was the only active one within the group. Upon returning to Kamino, Clone Force 99 questioned why they were unaffected by Order 66 and witnessed Chancellor Sheev Palpatine proclaim the rise of the Galactic Empire. There, they also met Omega, a young experimental female clone. After refusing Wilhuff Tarkin's order to execute Saw Gerrera's insurgent group, the Bad Batch deserted the Empire with Omega. Crosshair, however, remained loyal to the Empire as his inhibitor chip continued to function. On Ord Mantell, Captain Rex located the Bad Batch at Sid's Parlor, a bar and gambling den run by the Trandoshan information broker Sid. During their meeting, Rex discovered they had not yet removed their inhibitor chips and offered to help. He directed them to Braca, leading them to a crashed Star Destroyer where the removal procedure could be performed, just as Ahsoka Tano had once done for him. At the time, Wrecker was suffering severe headaches. As Tech prepared to remove his chip first, it suddenly activated, causing Wrecker to attack his squad. He was eventually subdued, and the chip was successfully removed. The rest of the team then underwent the procedure without anyone else going berserk on the team. Crosshair would later reunite with his brothers after realizing the evil of his actions as an Imperial soldier, a change of heart likely influenced by his chip's failure or his own moral judgment overcoming its control. According to legends, the Ion team comprised 4 highly trained commandos: Captain Clymer, Trace, Ras, and a communications specialist who fought alongside Jedi General Roan Shrine. When the team received the order to execute Order 66 on Mercana, they were initially confused and refused to carry it out against Shrine, Bolshatak, and Padawan Oli Starstone, believing the command to be a false enemy transmission. The commandos even counter-ambushed troopers led by Commander Salvo in an attempt to prevent the Jedi from being killed. Although they succeeded in protecting the Jedi for a time, Darth Vader arrived on the planet and killed 2 members of the Ion team. Captain Clymer and Trace managed to escape, but were later captured by Vader's forces. Vader also decapitated Bolshatak and was subsequently informed of the commandos' capture, leading to their imprisonment on Aegon 9. Also referred to as Alpha 26, according to legends, Captain Maze was known for his long-standing grudge and rivalry with Ordo. At one point they fought when Ordo beat him for attempting to lecture him on obeying Jedi generals. Later, Maze got his revenge, landing several punches to Ordo's mouth during a victory celebration held by Cal Skirata. This incident eventually led to a shared understanding between them as they walked off together after the fight. Before the Clone Wars ended, Mace spent his downtime reading and forming strong opinions about the Republic. He believed the Jedi should not interfere in political leadership as they were not elected, and he was also critical of Palpatine's political rule. Captain Mace served under Arlagan Zay, and when Palpatine issued the command for Order 66, Mace walked into a conversation between Ordo and Zay in Zay's quarters. Zay had just been attacked by clones who had obeyed Palpatine's order. From the discussion, Mace learned that Palpatine was a Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, and that the Jedi had tried to overthrow him. Mace did not know who or what the Sith were, and Ordo explained that they were the opposite of the Jedi. When Ordo left, Mace begged Zay to pretend he was arresting him. However, Zay ordered Mace to kill him, as he did not want to be captured alive. Mace refused to comply, instead lying to Ordo that he had executed Zay to conceal the truth in case Ordo was ever interrogated. After Ordo and the other deserters made their way to Kira Morat, in the outer rim of Mandalore, Mace contacted them to request refuge. Zay's Padawan, Barden Jusik, was sent to assist in the retrieval and was shocked to learn from Ordo that Zay was dead. Upon arriving on Mandalore, Ordo himself was also shocked to see Zay. During the Clone Wars, in a space battle, HOB-147 was shot down in his V-19 Torrent starfighter and rendered unconscious. Not long after, while drifting alone in space with his ship's life support still active, Order 66 was issued. He remained unconscious and adrift for several weeks, missing one of the final battles of the Clone Wars. HOB-147 was eventually rescued by Herd Coil, a scavenger. His ship had drifted near Coil's vessel, and Coil reprogrammed B-1 series battle droids immediately detected it. Seeing an opportunity to salvage the ship for extra credits, Coil brought it aboard, even though he was on a mission at the time. As his droids dismantled the V-19 Torrent in the hangar, they discovered HOB-147, who was still alive. Coil ordered the battle droids to take him to the sickbay. Upon waking, HOB-147 found himself surrounded by droids and, in shock, believed he had been captured by Separatist forces. In a panic, he jumped out of bed and destroyed several droids with his bare hands. Coil arrived to find the destruction and knocked HOB-147 unconscious with an electro dart. When he awoke again, he was chained in a small room. Coil, recognizing that HOB-147 clearly had no understanding of what had happened during the execution of Order 66, began to explain it to him. HOB-147, however, was shot again with an electro dart by Coil after discovering a female Jedi youngling named Nia in the vent system, as he demanded to know who she was. After regaining consciousness again, he attempted to escape, suspecting a Separatist plot, but was stopped by an invisible force and passed out once more. When he finally woke, he realized that Coil's ship contained 11 Jedi younglings, all around him, revealing that Coil's mission was secretly to transport Jedi to the Outer Rim. Nia approached him, asking if all clones were bad. Touched by her innocence, HOB-147 decided to disobey Order 66 and help them escape. Later, a group of clone troopers, under orders from their ARC trooper commander, attempted to search Coil's ship for incriminating evidence. Despite Coil's pleas, they proceeded with their orders. HOB-147 stepped forward, claiming that Coil had saved his life and that he had checked the entire ship, finding nothing incriminating. The ARC commander withdrew his men based on HOB-147's deception, and as HOB-147 departed, he saw Nia waving to him from a nearby vent. Having served for a time under Jedi General Shaak Ti during the Clone Wars, Abel 1707 and other clone troopers were attacked by Separatist forces over Lubang Minor. Before their Lat-Eye gunship could land, it was shot down and crashed. Abel 1707 survived, but the other survivors were killed by Separatist battle droids. As the lone survivor, he buried his fallen brothers and adapted to life on the uninhabited planet, remaining there for more than 20 years with no means of contacting the outside galaxy. Months after the Rebel Alliance victory at the Battle of Yavin, Abel 1707 witnessed an Imperial strike force attacking Rebel Red Squadron. He then discovered an Alliance intelligence shuttle caught in the midst of the Empire establishing a listening post on the planet and mistakenly assumed the Imperial stormtroopers were clone troopers wearing new armor. Abel 1707 rushed toward the Imperial officer in charge to report in, but the officer, confused and suspicious, opened fire, believing it to be a rebel deception. Forced to flee back into the jungle, Abel 1707 encountered Luke Skywalker and Commander Arhul Nara in hiding. Assuming they were separatists being hunted by the stormtroopers, he demanded to know their identities. Abel 1707 explained how he had crash-landed on the planet, while Nara described the events that had occurred since the end of the Clone Wars. Luke also revealed that he had been trained by Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. With Nara forced to claim that Luke was one of the Rebel Alliance's most important leaders, Abel 1707 agreed to help them and donned salvaged stormtrooper armor. They initially fooled the Imperial officer, but suspicion grew when Abel 1707 responded with the clipped, instinctive affirmations typical of clone troopers. He ultimately shot the officer, triggering a battle between the stormtroopers and the rebels with their intelligence team. As the rebels became pinned down by fire from Imperial Sentinel-class landing craft, Abel 1707 maneuvered through blaster fire and hurled a thermal detonator into an Imperial shuttle, destroying it. However, he was soon surrounded by stormtroopers, prompting Luke to return and rescue him. After successfully escaping the planet, Abel 1707 was taken to the Rebel flagship Home 1, where he eventually learned that Luke was not actually one of the Alliance's top leaders, though he remained satisfied that Luke was a Jedi. He adopted the name Abel and continued to address Luke as General, even as others mocked him for it. Reports of Abel 1707's survival also reached the Imperial forces, who considered the reemergence of a long-lived Fett clone troubling for the Empire.
Oh, and again, for a limited time, every Stickman Saber purchase comes with 2 additional combat sabers, so you're more than ready for your own duels. If that sounds like something you'd want to look into, the link's in the description.